Hey everyone. So this is one of those chapters where what's going on in the background is just as important as the foreground. As immediately we see the whole teaming up between Roger and Garp at the time was very much, you could say, an unspoken pact. Like they basically team up in this moment, but they would never speak of it again. And while this is the least surprising thing as far as reveals go, because I think we knew of this beforehand, it is still an interesting one for showing not only how much respect they had for each other, despite being mortal enemies, but like how much respect they had for Rox by choosing to stay just to fulfill his final wish. Like Roger and Garp could have just as easily left God Valley and let Rox continue his rampage, and maybe eventually he would burn himself out and die. But they didn't. They chose to respect his wishes by basically killing them by killing him with their own hands, like to and to have and to give him some form of dignity in death. Like even it's one of those things where it really shows that again, for as much as all three of them were enemies or rivals or whatever you want to call it, they still did have a great amount of respect for each other, and we've seen that time and time again with how Roger and Garp interact. But it especially adds a new layer when you add when you add Rox into the mix now. Like it shows that for as much as they were enemies, that they had this weird sort of three-way mutual respect with each other, and even more than that, though, I love the characterization this does for both Garp and Roger in showing that for as much as they've been seen as reckless fools, they are equally resourceful when faced with a life or death situation. Like some of my favorite, like as weird as it sounds, some of my favorite moments in this chapter, we're just kind of seeing Roger and Garp just kind of interact back and forth, like just kind of strategizing to like talking tactics, that kind of thing of like of how they can go about like killing rocks, like little like moments like that. It kind of shows that even though someone like Roger has had this huge has basically been described so many times as being similar to Luffy. I think one of the key fixtures I think that does separate Roger from Luffy in a sense is that even though both are even though both do have some sort of who have kind of have some kind of battle knowledge, you could say. I think one thing that does separate Roger is that he definitely understands tactics a lot more, whereas Luffy, he understands tactics, but in a sort of way where it's like, yeah, he's basically gonna he's still kind of like he's still shooting the shit in a way. He's a lot of Luffy's kind of tactics are more experimental, whereas with Roger, he has more of a sense of combat, of what to do in the moment kind of thing. Um, now and now also, I'm not gonna lie, this chapter and just the entirety of God Valley really does puts Garp title as Hero of the Navy into an interesting perspective, and how, given the circumstances, I wouldn't be surprised if the government showering him with all these accolades was a way of getting him to keep his mouth shut about what he witnessed. Don't get me wrong, all those accolades, in a sense, when you're looking at God Valley itself, they were in a sense well deserved. Don't get me wrong, but you can also see that the motive behind the government for showering with those accolades was very much here's we're gonna shower you with all these accolades, all these accolades of you as a Navy hero. Just shut your fucking mouth about what happened. Like it was kind of almost like it was kind of like blackmail through basically accolades. Like his whole like I'm not gonna say like I don't think I would ever say Garp's whole image is based on a lie, but in the perspective of the government, it's a lie in a way. um, with that said, as the chapter plainly states and shows us, Rox's death was the flashpoint in history that gave rise to much of the status quo we would come to know it. But one of the key moments is seeing the beginning of the Whitebeard pirates, as in the midst of everyone scrambling to get off the island, Newgate comes face to face with a man called Polo Graham, who's a member of the Polo Pirates at the time, and who looks suspiciously like a certain pineapple-haired former First Division commander. Like, let's not even beat around the bush. This is Marco's father. And I'm not going to lie, it is fascinating to see those seeds planted so soon, because I would have imagined it would happen at an unspecified point in time after God Valley incident. I wasn't expecting it to happen in, like, the final moments of God Valley, but again, considering how much of a turning point this all was, I guess I shouldn't be surprised even smaller first meetings like this would happen. In saying that, I don't know why, but I find it fascinating how the precedent for Big Mom and Kaido's garage robbery, whatever you want to call it, with each other is really just based off an argument about who has rightful ownership of the fish fruit. Like, I guess I shouldn't be too surprised given how petty pirates can be, and especially a pirate like Big Mom, but I don't know, I wasn't expecting, like, it's one of those things where I wasn't expecting a deep and thoughtful reason why they were at each other's throats, but I had expected there would be a little more to it, like some kind of soul deal between Big Mom and Kaido, but yeah, nothing of the sort. It's really just them it's just the whole thing with their egos not, like taking up so much space. Also, so, like, yeah, it's like, I would have liked maybe a little more meat on the bone with that one, but it's not surprising that's all it really amounts to. Also, this chapter got me wondering what exactly happened to Shiki after God Valley. Like, we know the basic details. He was imprisoned in Impledown for a time and later escaped after the Ed War, but after that, yeah, we haven't heard or seen anything about him, and it's just got me curious of where he is now, or even if he's alive. Like, I'd really like to know where Shiki is in the world now, what he's doing, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's one of those details that we're likely not going to get an answer to. Like, I think Oda himself recently came out and said that there are going to be certain things we're not going to get an answer to, and that might be one of them. The only thing we have to go off of is the Strong World movie, I guess, in that regard. In saying all that, let's talk about Dragon, because yeah, we see his big turning point in this chapter where we see him holding his own men at gunpoint, forcing them to take the slaves aboard his ship and to escape. Oh, and this is very much the major turning point where I think Dragon becomes the revolutionary leader we would know him as. But for me, the one thing I'm still hoping to see from this aftermath of this is just what the falling out between Garp and Dragon looked like, because I've got the feeling that while God Valley was the big instigator, the big turning point of that falling out was Luffy's birth. And the more I'm thinking about it, how much you want to bet dollars to donuts that one of the big reasons for that falling out is that the government sends out a kill order to eliminate Dragon and all associated with him, i.e. his newborn son and wife, his newborn son Luffy and his wife. Like, I'd be willing to bet it's one of those things where the death of Dragon's wife and Luffy's mother is what finally pushes him over the edge in order to become a revolutionary. And at the time, I think Dragon was so enraged that in his anger, he blamed Garp by association of being a Marine. This, of course, is all theory crafting, but given what we know about those who carry the letter D in their names, it kind of just makes way too much sense when looking at Dragon's absence from Luffy's life. Like, it was very much intentional because it's what got his wife killed, and by the same token, for as much as he blamed Garp in the moment, I think Dragon was also forced to realize Garp being a Marine is what could ultimately protect Luffy. It's just, ultimately, like, Luffy ultimately still ended up following the path of a pirate, so yeah, it's like, ultimately, I think this is one of those moments where I think Dragon ultimately does pretty much care about Luffy, but because of the nature of what it means to be of the clan of D, he was forced to make the decision in order to protect Luffy at the time. With But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for this, guys. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe from in Blue Sky. And on this Crunchyroll, be sure to notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share the ring, guys. Dark Knight, signing off. Later, everyone.